Alright, how you doing, YouTube? I've done a few videos. I need to do some more gameplay footage of Doom, to be honest, at this point. So I'm thinking it's probably the best thing to. Most likely, I'll be doing some more gameplay footage of Doom and things of that nature. I've reinstalled a few things. I've also noticed a couple of side effects for different things. Like when I'm recording my desktop and everything, I'll do certain things anyway. I don't know. I'll see how it goes anyway, but. Kind of shitting me. Well, that did just shit me then, because I tried to hit the recording button before I started doing everything, and it basically made my Shadow Play go outside the. Well, it turned GTA into a windowed program. So yeah, sort of frustrating. All right, still alive, still kicking. Okay.
Some of the throw on out.
Okay, so not bad. I generally have been having some problems with my 770s from time to time. Just them intermittently not working or not working to their full advantage sort of thing. What issue did I have before? I had a weird ass issue before. I couldn't figure out what it was. I think it was more related to well, I'll be honest, I think it might have been, and honestly, truthfully, I think it might have been related to my drivers, which pretty much most of my issues have always been relating back to my drivers in some form or another. I had an issue with the latest driver from Nvidia where the display driver literally crashed when I was doing something as simple as like doing shit in Windows. Like I mean, I'm talking about simple stuff in Windows, like changing the window over, minimizing, maximizing the screen or something of that nature. I mean, it was ridiculous, to be honest. And I was kind of like, what the fuck, seriously? Otherwise, it was okay, but it was just kind of pissing me off, to be truthful. I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to come to a conclusion in my own mind. I know I want to upgrade my video cards, maybe run to 1080s, but the problem is the justification of the price of both the cards. At the end of it, it's just they are. I mean, if I'm going to get two of them, it's going to be very expensive. It's going to be almost $2,000 if I try to buy them locally. I could try to source them up in another country, maybe, but we'll see. The only other option I was going to go for was, say, two 970s, or maybe two 1070s, depending on the price of the 1070s, because I don't know how much the 1070s are going to be. If the price is not too bad for the 1070s, I may consider it.
Not those bikers. You gotta stop that guy. Let's have some fun now.
But, I'm pretty impressed. Everything works so far. What I'm not impressed with, or a little bit pissed off with, at this point, is randomly just was on. I don't know. As I said, my drivers seem to be working properly now. They seem to be going pretty well, so, not too bad. I'm pretty happy.
Him to change his mind.
Incredible, dude. You should keep some of that for yourself.
Don't thank me. I'd have tried to kill them all anyway.
But yeah, the truth of the situation is, and so far I'm figuring out in my own mind, is most of the games that I normally want to play and can play work pretty well. My frame rates are nice. As I said, maybe a card upgrade wouldn't go astray. I mean, I'm on the 70s. I mean, I don't consider the 770s an old card by any means. I mean, yes, they are still using the Kevlar architecture, the new Maxwell stuff, or the Pascal for that matter. But it's not a major issue, you know what I mean? The only problem I've had, see, The only issues that I've had and that have cropped up, and I mean, it's only because I'm running two 770s, is occasionally from time to time the driver will get released for the Nvidia cards, the newest, latest driver, and it'll end up fucking something in my system. Like, it literally will. It will literally give me a green screen and weird ass fucking colours and shit of that nature. And I'm talking about like multicolour. You actually think there's something wrong with the video card when in fact there is nothing wrong with the video card at all. It's just the fucking stupid driver that caused all those issues. And I'm like, well, what the fuck? Seriously, that's just fucking stupid. I'm sorry, but I can't understand how Nvidia can get their drivers so right a certain percentage of the time, and then they can get them so wrong the other half of the time. Now, I understand there's backwards compatibility, but my cards are not that old. You know, they're still on the Kevlar. They're still on the original Kevlar stuff, but fuck, I don't know, Jesus, you know. I don't know. Look, maybe it's a good idea that I try to get some newer cards, because the newer cards run on lower power. That'll save me on my power bill. Not just on my power bill, but it will save me in general in that type of stuff, and you know, I'll probably find things will be a lot cheaper. So, because I know for a fact that most of the newer cards, even the Maxwell cards, run on a lower power bracket. They run on like a single 8-pin connector, or you know, two, or just, you know, one. Yeah, pretty much, yeah, single 8-pin connector and maybe 1 6-pin or something like that. Well, you know, not even that. I mean, that's my point. A lot of these newer cards, especially even the Maxwell cards, run on lower power. They're more power efficient in the way that they work. They perform damn well, and they're more power efficient, basically. So I'm deciding and tossing and turning between, do I try to buy some 970s now, which was sort of the thing. I mean, when I bought the 770s, they hadn't brought out the 9s and things of that nature. So, you know, I mean, that was a generation prerequisite. So what I was thinking is maybe if I buy two 970s, if I can get them on special and I get them for a good price, in SLI, because I do love SLI, I don't have anything against SLI. And now I know for a fact that, well, Nvidia is trying to accommodate people more with two-way SLI. Now they're trying to go away from three-way, four-way SLI, which I'm okay with that, because two-way SLI does me just fine for the purposes of what I want to use it for. You know what I mean? And I do not have a problem with that at all. I think if I wait it out, the prices will drop dramatically, or I can pick up two 970s for a good price. Now, the only difference being is that the sense of the memory memory on those particular cards is not as high as, say, if I went for one of the new 1070s, for example. Which, if the 1070s are on the par with the price in Australia, this is what I'm talking about in Australia, if they're on par with the price of the 970s, I will definitely probably get 1070s more than 970s. But at this point in time, because I'm not in the, you know, not in a certain part of the world, namely the USA, pricing is extremely fucking stupid. It's cheaper for me to buy two 970s in the long run than it is to buy like two 1080s or something of that nature. Why the hell did that just do that? Okay, that's weird. Okay, sorry about that. I had to restart the video because it decided it was going to take the full screen app that I had there and it was going to make it into a windowed app for some fucking fucked up reason. Well, you know, just shit happens, but ultimately shit happens and it pisses me off. I don't know, like, I've had little problems with the 770s, and most of the problems that I've been having of late has all been related to drivers. It's all down to driver issues. The driver doesn't work. The driver makes things go the wrong way. The driver makes the card run too hot. The driver doesn't configure SLI and scale properly. I mean, my God, it's never ending the amount of problems I've had with drivers. I mean, wow, you know. I mean, okay, I know this card is not that fucking... I know these cards aren't that new, but Jesus Christ, they're not ancient either. You know, like... I'm kind of at a loss to explain and... Well, I mean, I'm not at a loss, I guess I can understand that in the sense of videos always that way. They're always trying to push their new cards and their new technology. Now, it has come to that degree at this point. Now, if the price, as I said, this is the problem with pricing in Australia. Pricing in Australia is absolutely shocking for the 970s. Yeah, pricing is shocking for the 970s, and I don't know what it's going to be like for the 1070s at all. I have no idea. Is it going to be good? Who knows? Is it going to be reasonable? Yeah, probably not. Knowing the prices that we get here. Now, the difference being though is like here or, for example, overseas in America, you guys pay sales tax. Now, by the time you actually work out the sales tax, it probably ends up costing you about the same amount. But we wouldn't pay a sales tax if I was importing it from the USA or whatever. Now, the thing is, and the thing that I don't get, as I said, a lot of these prices are just ridiculously inflated. And I know for a fact they're inflated because I remember in certain retail stores and stuff, especially when it came to retail computers, that a lot of those prices that would come up would be 200% markup on retail. I know for a fucking fact that in most cases that is pretty much the way it is. But then I understand why they're doing it, or why they do that, because they wouldn't make any money otherwise. They, you know, the business 101 is a method of, you know, being able to make money, as much money as you possibly can. Not just that, but also, you know, they have to make a profit out of the car. They have to make it profitable. You got to pay import duties, you got to pay rent, all this other stuff. You know, it's a bit different for a small business like me. So something that I'm running from home like me, it's, you know, it's, I've got just, you know, electricity and maybe the rent of the house and things like that to cover, but it's different for somebody not like me. But a business, you know, they got you know, a bunch of, like a real, you know, hefty growth business. They've got to be they've got to take accountability for everything. So, you know, at the end of it, I'm a sole trader myself. I'm a person who's doing this individually. It's a hobby, but it's also a mini hobby. I call it a mini hobby business that I run, and I do it because I can do it cheap, and I do it because, you know, sort of helps me get around things and be able to do stuff, you know. And on top of that, I got the qualifications for it and everything else. But I mean, aside from that, I understand what a business is trying to do. A business is there to make money. Now, at the end of it, it's just, I don't know, it's just frustrating, especially these days, you know. I mean, it makes me want to rush and put some of my prices up, but... Shit. Didn't work. This is, I mean, the point that I'm trying to make to you is that I understand... to a certain extent or a certain point that they're trying to make money, but I know for a fact that in most cases the retail prices are like these big retail chains and stuff like that. They normally charge 200% markup on certain things, and I'm just like, well, okay, that's a bit excessive. I mean, okay, look, I get it. You want to make money, that's cool, but there are certain times I think to myself, okay, yeah, you can still make freaking money, but you know. You could get away with charging the minimal that you need to charge to sell a product. You could get away with it. You could get away with it in the sense, you know, as long as... I mean, okay, in certain circumstances it depends, I guess, but, you know, I mean, I understand, you know, I don't know, I guess it's different if you're working for yourself, but I mean, okay, if I started to employ people, and I started to, you know, want to build a shop front and everything else, it's always going to cost more for a bricks and mortar business than it is for, you know, something that's home based. That's always the, you know, the point. But I'm always a person for a bargain. I will always make sure that I budget. I budget like crazy, you know, in the sense of I know what I can and I can't afford in certain circumstances. On top of that, I have a tendency to have to save money in most cases if I really want something, which is rather frustrating, but, you know, it's the pretty much the way life is at this point. I mean, because of course, unless I start making some more money out of YouTube and things of that nature, which that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make more money out of that at this point, but sometimes I don't know, sometimes it's great, you know, as I said. But I also think there's a certain degree of money that goes into advertising a channel, whether it be like, you know, specifically a revenue channel. My point is, I always feel there is a certain amount of money that goes into it. The profits that I'm getting out of eBay, Jesus. The profits that I'm getting out of YouTube though are minimal at the moment. So I don't have enough money to put back into that advertising part. I mean, see, it's sort of a combination. As I said, I do make money from my repairs, but my repairs have been a bit slow lately. I mean, they're okay, as long as if they're actually, you know, as long as if they don't... Well, they do slow down, periodic times. Sometimes I have slow times of the year where it's just like, you know, fuck. I've got barely anybody coming through. And then other times I got a shitload of people, you know what I mean? And the other side of it too is, I've got people who annoy me as well. I mean, well, no. I mean, most of my clients are pretty good. I mean, I've got a pretty good client base. People call me up when they need problems. But I mean, in most cases, the jobs that I'm doing, in the sense that when I fix a computer, it's fixed. In most cases, I don't see the customer for another 3, like sometimes even 12, you know, 15 months down the track. That repeat customer that I get, I don't see them after that, because basically I've fixed the computer efficiently enough that it doesn't get a reinfection, or it doesn't get this, or it doesn't. Things don't happen to a certain extent. I mean, that's my point.
Bullshit.
I mean, it makes me wonder if I should be more inefficient. No, I mean, that'd be bad business. But I mean, put it this way, I'm efficient enough to say that at least when I fix a computer, it's fixed. It's you know, it's not going to crop up with issues and stuff like that. And I've only had a couple of clients come back. It was the first time I said. Actually, it was the first time that somebody brought something back. But I have a warranty on my repairs, so if there's a problem with the repair, just bring it back and I'll have a look at it again and just see if I missed anything, or if there's anything that wasn't. And I've only had maybe 1 or 2 clients come back to me and say, "Oh, okay, what the, you know, this is still being slow," and I'm like, "Okay, cool, no problem."
Not those bikers.
See, that's the thing.
You really saved my ass.
There you go. I persuaded him to change his mind.
Wow.
See, that's the thing. Or,
I'd say you earned yourself a reward, bro.
Ah, don't thank me.
see,
I'd try to kill
the point that the point that I'm trying to make to you is that I've only ever had 1 or 2 clients come back and say, "Oh, okay, can you fix this, or can you do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you know." The other side of it too is, I mean, I have a lot of equipment for repairing laptops and doing stuff like and things of that nature. The only thing that I'm considering, which I need to brush up on, to be honest, is probably some soldering stuff, because I think I need to buy a better soldering kit, to be honest, for some of the jobs. I mean, okay, I'll be honest. I know how to solder. Or solder. I know how to solder, but it's not my strong suit. It's not my strongest attribute. I have a lot of other attributes, as you know, to attribute to that. So, to be honest, I probably need to be train myself a little bit more, which I've been learning. There's a couple of YouTube videos and stuff I look up as well. I can do it, but I'd rather not. If I absolutely don't have to do it, then, you know, I won't. But if it's absolutely required in a certain situation, yeah, I guess. But the other side of it too, I mean, I don't know. There's the other side of it. I mean, yes, I'm confident to a certain degree with soldering, but It depends on my frame of mind with it. You know what I mean? I can do it, but at the other side of it too, I feel it's a bit dodgy sometimes. Like, I'm not saying it's completely dodgy, but I mean, I just feel, I don't know. It's my personal opinion, I guess, but it's down to my practice. I mean, maybe if I was more inclined to do it on a regular basis, I might promote it more. And don't get me wrong, I know there's plenty of people out there who do that stuff. I do a combination of, virus trojans, desktop gaming hardware and building gaming machines and stuff like that. But I don't know, as I said, soldering a component off a motherboard or rewiring it or, repurposing it and things like that, yeah, I could probably do it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd probably be able to do it and I probably wouldn't have an issue, and I could develop my own practices for it, but it's not something that I regularly do, so it's not something that I regularly promote. But it's not as if I'm not incapable of doing it, I just, I prefer not to do it if I can help it. The other side of it too is, I mean, certain things like, for example, screen replacements. Well, most screen replacements are pretty easy, depending on the screen replacement in question. Most of them are relatively easy. I mean, I've seen a couple of screens that are a real pain in the ass to get the damn thing off. The other side of it too is, there's different ways of doing it. Like, I mean, a couple of laptops, and this is not all laptops, it just depends on the laptop, really. And I guess how you approach it to a certain extent. Some laptops have actually required me to disassemble the entire laptop to actually be able to put the screen on, which is a bit frustrating just because of the time. It can be time consuming. Now, it's not always time consuming, but say you do 12 dozen or whatever of them. I understand, if you're doing those screen repairs on a regular basis, and you're constantly doing that stuff, then yeah, you're going to get used to doing it. But if you do it once in a blue moon, like me, which a lot of my repairs are like virus stuff and infections and software related stuff, a lot of that stuff, a percentage of my stuff has been that. Not all the time, but, I mean, I get hardware repairs, don't get me wrong, but I also get other moments where it's not always hardware repairs, a lot of it's software. The other side of it, too, is, I think, I don't know, there's some things I want to get into, too. I want to be able to get into, phone repair as well, maybe. Doing some stuff with repairing phones and, resoldering motherboards, things of that nature. Like, I'd like to get into that. Probably need to train myself a little bit more with it. To be honest, I think a course would probably help me. I don't know, that's the problem. I'd have to find a course in Australia that specifically covered that type of stuff. I mean, there's heaps of stuff on the internet, don't get me wrong, but I would probably prefer to have a bit of a hands-on thing in front of someone to sort of, I'd get a few pointers from the teacher in question. So, I mean, that'd probably be something I'd probably want to do. So, at this point, I'm sufficient at what I know how to do. The different bits and pieces that I've learned over the years. Some of it's from personal experience. Some of it's from practical experience. Some of it's from, just general knowledge of me mucking around with motherboards and different things and, stuff of that nature. Other stuff has just been because, I was bored and what the hell, let's just research this shit and see exactly what's involved. The other side of it too is there is certain circumstances, especially with some screen replacements, where if it's a really one of those little mini notebooks or something like that, the screen replacement in most cases will end up costing you an arm and a leg, and you're probably better off buying a new laptop. Like, if it's one of those little 10-inch fucking netbooks or something, yeah, I don't know. I don't see the point in trying to. I mean, firstly, okay, they're a fiddly job, which I understand. IT is a fiddly job by any terms, but it's more fiddly than it should be, especially when it's something in those small parameters. Now the problem with those, I don't know, the issue I have sometimes with them is, I guess, you know, if you're going to sit there and say, I'll pay $200 and something for the screen replacement, which, you know, that's pretty much a going rate. I mean, there's some places that charge more, locally and stuff like that, you know. That's the thing, you know, like, fuck. If you're going to freaking do that, honestly, well, you know, at the end of it, if you're going to do that, you may as well just replace the entire laptop, because by the time you've gone through and replaced that part, replaced, you know, everything else, I mean, okay, whether it's a number of parts, you know, like, I don't know. As I said, depending on how fiddly, depending on how fiddly a screen is, it can sometimes take an hour. Can take an hour, sometimes, depending. I've seen it, but in most cases, I charge a bare minimum of 2 hours, because things can take 2 hours to, you know, fully sort of work around and get them. And there's even a couple of things that I haven't necessarily charged what I should have. Like, there might have taken a little longer than 2 hours. And I just charge the person for 2 hours. You know what I mean? Because I'm just that type of person. I'm not going to gripe over it too much. Because I'm, you know, I mean, I set my time, but I don't. I mean, I set my time to a certain extent, but I said, you know, I have my other side of it too, where it's like, you know, say I've done a bit of extra work and gone the extra mile to help the customer, and, you know, do that extra mile for them and help them. They don't. Well, at the end of it, I don't. I'll sort of hold them to a minimal requirement. You know what I mean? For me, to be happy. Well, you know, I got paid out of it. I've got some money out of it. You know what I mean? Because for me, I don't know. It's just the integrity of me as a person as well. Because I try to be sympathetic to people. Probably not the best thing when it comes to business. I'm a little too kind when I should be a little more brusque about how my business practices are, to be truthful. But at the same side of it too, I try not to screw myself over too often, in the sense of, you know, things of that nature. Like, in the sense, you know, if I'm doing something for someone, I have a tendency to. Yeah, I don't know. I have a tendency to... Okay, yes, I'm sympathetic. But my sympathy only goes so far, in that sense that, well, okay, I'm only going to help you, but, you know, at some point I have to either get paid or get some type of recognition of what I'm doing, you know, in the sense whether it's through something else or, you know. I mean, I've even had people donate stuff, give stuff to me as well, give me old computers and things like that. Just, you know, because to be honest, it sort of shits me now, but now people are, you know, say, for example, somebody has got some old computer parts and things like that. Like, so, as I said, I don't mind recycling things. I do a bit of that, because I was with a tech shed that does that. And I don't mind recycling things. I don't mind recycling parts. It's always fun to recycle parts, you know, and you can reuse them for different purposes or repurpose them for a specific thing you need to use it with. And the truth of the matter is, I will try to repurpose things as much as possible. At the other side of it too, if somebody gives me something and I choose to resell it at a later date, in the sense of just reselling, because, you know, okay, they've given me some parts, but at the same time I gave them a bunch of tech support for different things, I don't have a problem with reselling that. That's not unethical in my mind. That's actually, you know, that's just smart business sense, you know. That just makes sense, you know what I mean? At the other side of it too, I've had a couple of people sort of turn around, you know, say, well, you know, why do you do this? Well, you know, I mean, I don't know. I've had people, well,
I agree with you. We need more fake plastic people that want to be famous.
no, what annoys me is that, okay, I know for a fact that most Australian retailers, including a few people who sell used laptops on eBay, They've turned around and simply said to people, okay, look, I'm sorry, but I can't guarantee the battery because the battery is something that, okay, firstly, that will add to the cost of the laptop in most cases. I guarantee the hardware that's inside the laptop, the RAM, the hard drive, you know, the motherboard, everything else, that I've tested it and put it through its paces and stuff like that, make sure that it's working correctly. The thing I've said to most people is I don't guarantee batteries because there's no way to guarantee batteries, especially... Now you would think, some people would think, and so some people do think, or have thought, that just because it's a laptop that it means you should guarantee the battery if it's reconditioned. No, that's not always the case, because the problem is the battery is a disposable item in question. And in most cases, I think the last person I had this argument with, because they were, as I said, you know, I have warranty, there's not anything wrong with the hardware, you know, fucking, as I said, I don't know. When it comes to freaking batteries, you can't guarantee them. That's just how it is. That's just how it is, especially in the reconditioned business. No, I'm sorry, you cannot guarantee the battery condition. You can say it has a minimal charge, which I'm pretty sure, you know. And I mean, the problem I have with this customer is that basically the minimal charge. I said it had minimal charge, like 20 minutes. I mean, I think it had something. No. If I remember correctly, it had about 20 minutes worth of charge. Something along those lines, about 20 minutes, or you know, at the least, you know, a small amount of time of charge. But the problem is that she complained it didn't have any charge at all. Well, okay, alright, so it's got no charge. That's fine, but the problem is I can't guarantee that I can't replace the battery because I don't replace the battery is not covered in my warranty. Simple as that. What's covered in my warranty? Hard drive, motherboard, all those parts and everything else. And the battery itself was only $30. So she was griping over $30, which I thought was a bit stupid, to be honest, because... Well, no, actually, she turned around and claimed... She turns around and makes these false claims to me. And she turned around and she says, oh, the battery's going to cost me $100 and something dollars or $200, I don't know, some ridiculous amount like that. And I eBayed up the battery, checked it online, and I'm like, okay, no, the battery is $30. I can see it clearly on eBay. As I said, I always check the different stock sites and stuff, and there's always fucking good prices. And at the end of it, you know, fuck, a little simple eBay search and away she would have went, you know. And the truth of the situation is she's going looking for a fucking battery. I don't know where she went to look for a battery, and most of the places that I know locally would charge you fucking an arm and a leg for everything. There are some places that don't. Some places I buy, even buy my local gaming components and stuff from, which is MSY. Now, look, I'll be honest, computer technology is not cheap by any means. Yes, you can get reconditioned stuff that's cheap. But the truth of the situation is you've got to expect, especially if you get something reconditioned, batteries especially, you've got to be able to expect to have to put back in for that battery at some point. I know that for a fact. I bought a reconditioned laptop. Luckily for me, that reconditioned laptop that I did buy was not overly used. Now, this one that I did have was used. I mean, it had been probably used on a regular basis. But when I tested the battery, which I gave it a quick test, I did not, you know, I didn't run extensive tests on the battery. Put it this way, because I don't guarantee or warrant the battery, so I'm not going to give it a complete test through. You know what I mean? I mean, I'll test it basically to see if it's actually fucking working. My point, or the point that I'm trying to get across to you, and the point that I'm trying to make, the point that I'm trying to make is that I guarantee the main hardware components, which, I'm sorry, but the battery is not the main hardware component. Yes, some people will turn around and say, oh no, but on a laptop it is. No, not really. Especially when it comes to reconditioned laptops. Most second-hand dealers, and this is I quoted from a different a listed eBay seller, his guarantee was that the battery has a minimal amount of charge. Yeah, okay. Tested basically, but the batteries are not guaranteed, they're disposable, you're going to have to buy a new battery. Now most batteries, and I'll be honest, most laptop batteries are cheap as chips these days. They are fucking inexpensive. 50, 60 bucks at the max. Alright? I know this for a fact. And it sort of gets me to this day that she was griping over $30, which the battery was $30. But it sort of pissed me off, to be honest, and I'm like, well, okay, what the hell? But that's her choice, whatever. I guess at the end of it, ultimately it's up to her what she wants to do, but I think I remember sending her a link. I sent her a link to the battery. So I don't know, the other side of it is too, I try to do my best with things, I try to make people happy. I can't make everybody happy, Truth is, I miss things, I'm only human, I make mistakes. I'm inclined to make a few errors here and there. But, I'll be honest. I try to be the best possible person I can be at the same time. Sometimes if I have to be an asshole about things and tell people to fuck off, I don't have a problem with doing that. Because there's just some people who need to be told to fuck off. Because in the sense of, just people, it's just like, well, okay, hold on a second. I did right by you. I did the right thing. I helped you out. Yet, some people, they seem to think that just because they're paying you or giving you fucking money, they can treat you like shit. I'll be honest. I had this experience with this guy, which I don't really do business with him anymore, but, I had an experience where he wanted me to fix things, but I think he was a sort of a business owner himself. But it was always me. And it was, I get that, I understand that, but at the end of it, I have my own set of rules. I have my own set of rules that I follow. I have my own set of guidelines that I follow when I repair things and I do stuff. The way I do things, alright? And those rules and those guidelines, I do not like to go against them. Unless I absolutely have to. In a dire situation. But I do not like going against my own guidelines, and my own guidelines are set forth for a reason. Because they work for me. They work for me as a person, they work for me as a business, and it sort of pisses me off when you get people demanding, it's like, oh, just, yeah, the amount of people, it's like, oh, I'm giving you money, and what the fuck, you should fucking dance and jump up and down and do shit. Look, I'm sorry, look, it shits me, because it shits me that everybody seems to think that, just because you're giving somebody money, that you should be able to take control of their life and fucking push them around and, belittle them and make them feel like they're fucking, dancing around like a fucking... No, look, I'm sorry, that's fucked. That's fucked, alright? I'm a good person, I have a good personality, I'm kind, compassionate, understanding, but I also don't like being pushed around by people, and I also don't like being pushed into things I don't want to do. And the truth of the situation is, there are some cases where I've accepted a client simply because of the money factor. True. But in most cases, that relationship has ended up souring later simply because the client was being an asshole about things, in the sense of how they treated me as a person, how they looked, just, yeah, as I said. I try to respect people as much as I possibly can, but it's got to be shown on both sides. I got to get respected for what I do, and you should be respected for what you do. I understand that, but it should be on both sides. The customer should be able to respect the repairer and respect other people, and the opinion of the other repairer. At the end of it, I try to be as honest as I can with people, and I always am pretty honest. Actually, I'll be honest. There's never been a time that I've lied to a client. I haven't told the client the complete details of a repair in some situations because I just don't think they'd have the level of understanding to truly grasp what I'm talking about. The other side of it too is there's also other situations where I've come up against it and I thought, well, okay, hold on a second, you know, I thought about it for a second. It's like, you know, if I give them a basic description of what I've done and sort of having a bit of it explain it to them, because I'll be honest, as I said, some people just want to know that the item in question is fixed. Is it fixed? Yes. Does it work? Yes. Is it functioning? Is it doing the thing, and is the thing fixed that was specifically wrong with it? Yes. You know what I mean? I mean, at the end of it, that's what I've done. And I mean, I've never had a problem with, you know, fixing and doing the stuff that I do. What shits me is when, I guess, I get, see, the other side of it too is, I get somebody who comes to me, a client, and they give it to me because they tried to fix it, and they couldn't fucking fix it. And I'm like, well, what the fuck? I mean, okay, so you brought it to me, you try to get me to fix it, you try to get me to look at it, you don't follow my opinion when I say that this is probably most likely not the best way to, you know, well, for example, like, there's a couple of repairs I'm like, no dude, there's no way this is repairable. Obviously he's tried to fix it himself, he's done a whole shitload of stuff to it, and I'm like, well, geez, there's about 10 different things that need replacing on this. To be honest and truthful, I'd probably end up charging you an arm and a leg to fix it. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, probably in excess of, like, maybe, you know, sometimes I would say the $300 mark sometimes, especially for some of the parts and everything else, you know? Like, I mean, for, like, in the sense, like, okay, somebody brings me a, they brought me a Mac, it was an iMac. Now, the problem with this iMac was, from what I could tell, and I don't know, it might have had further board problems. The problem is I'm not going to go soldering on a board, especially if I don't know exactly what's wrong with it. On top of that, I don't have all the necessary testing equipment to be able to test that board entirely, right? I mean, I have, you know, I have tools to take things apart and do that, but I don't have every single piece of equipment to be able to test every single piece of a board and part of a board, you know? I mean, I have a certain degree of it, but, you know, yeah, as I said, I mean, I don't know, anyway, my point is, they brought me the computer, and I'm like, okay, alright, so what do you want me to do? I want you to fix this. Okay, not a problem, I'll fix it, that's cool. So I had a look. From what I could tell, it had a bunch of problems. The screen didn't work. Firstly, the screen didn't work. The RAM in there was already dead, so I had to put some new RAM in there. If they wanted me to put in more RAM or larger amounts of RAM, I would have had to order some in. So that would have been more money up front. I think the entirety of the entire machine, I mean, by the time you sort of calculate it all in, that iMac machine would end up costing.
Not this again.
That iMac machine, I'll be honest, would have ended up costing me. Yeah, it would end up costing me. Well, it would end up costing him about maybe $500-600 to fix. And I'm like, dude, this machine is in pieces. You don't know whether that. Firstly, you got the replacement hard drive, which, depending on the size of the hard drive you wanted, man. Wow, that's like, you know, I mean, you got to consider the hard drive, and then, to be honest, the motherboard looked like it had issues too, like in the sense of, you know, hey, I could go deeper into it, I could find that the actual motherboard's stuffed. Now, if the motherboard's stuffed, as I said, I don't like soldering, or soldering. And the problem with soldering, as I said, well, it's not as if I don't like doing it, but it's just not, it's not something I particularly pick over. And to be honest, I'd rather replace the entire components, because you don't know whether other parts of the board have issues. I'd have to go through the entire board, piece by piece, bit by bit, and test every part of the board. Now that is time consuming, right? That is time consuming in my mind. Especially if I didn't know what the previous life of the product was. And I didn't. He didn't explain anything to me. He never told me anything. He simply handed me the computer and with, you know, no RAM covers or anything of that nature. There's no RAM covers on it too. This is my point. Like, it basically handed me the computer in pieces. And I'm like, well, okay, dude, that's not going to help me. I mean, I like fixing things, but what? Do you expect me to replace all the, you know, covers and do all this other shit and, you know, be able to take the entire thing apart? I mean, look, at the end of it, dude, that's my point. No. I mean, obviously, it was, as I said, it seemed like I was just being taken advantage of at the time, because it didn't have it, as I said, it didn't have half the parts and everything else. Anyway, aside from that, anyway, that's beside the point. What shitted me about this, I guess, is that I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, you know, I don't know, just I try my best to help people, but at the same time, if I say something is going to be, you know, economically unrepairable in the sense of what I'd have to do to it and how many hours I'd have to spend fixing it, don't get me wrong, I like doing stuff, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit there and spend hours and hours on something, you know, and not expect to get paid for those hours. You know what I mean? I don't know. As I said, just. But anyway, that's aside from the point. Anyway, I think, and it's not all clients that I have issues with. It's just a couple that I've had a couple of little tiny, you know, things here and there that have simply made me reconsider the customer service industry, because I'll be honest, the customer is not always right. I mean, yes, to a certain extent they are, but they're not always right. I'm sorry to say this, but some faults and a percentage of faults are caused by the customer themselves. Otherwise, they wouldn't be coming to get it repaired. They'd get it replaced on the warranty or something like that. And I've had certain situations where people have done that. They fuck something up, you know. I mean, I don't know. I've never tried to repair. Okay, anything that gets a spill in it, I'm not going to necessarily try and repair that. Could I repair it? Yeah. Probably wouldn't be an issue. But yeah, I don't know. As I said, I've never really sort of been one to repair something as a spill, especially if it's coffee or something sticky. That can be extremely difficult because you got to clean the entire fucking board. I mean, I don't know. Me personally, that's just, I don't know. For the type of repairs I do, the type of machines I build, it's just time consuming. I don't have a problem with laptops. Well, no, I mean, I don't have a massive problem with laptops. I'm probably more inclined to deal with desktops, but, you know, if I feel something is repairable, look, as I said, I'll take a look at something, I'll be honest with something, it's like, is that repairable, is it fixable? I'll do it. The other side of it, too, is, for example, maybe, is it, repairable? I don't know, sorry, just excuse me, I'm tired at the moment. Anyway, I might leave it there anyway. Thank you very much, YouTube. I hope you enjoy my videos as per usual. Stay tuned for more at a later date. Thank you, and goodbye.